Hey, Catherine, what's the scariest time of year for MSLs?
Ugh, no brainer. Okay, so it's the quiet times. And so these happen a lot, especially around the summer or the holidays, but it's when none of your KOLs want to meet. They're out of there, and you'd think that it would be a nice break from travel, but what really happens is because you're not in the field, you don't have that hustle and bustle, and you're not like making moves, you have so much unplanned time, and so your schedule becomes aimless and you
Mm.
become less productive.
If this sounds like you, stick around. Catherine and I are going to introduce you to a really awesome technique that we call planning your ideal week. We'll talk about what this is, why every MSL should have one, and how it's going to help you take control of your time and make sure you're working on your needle movers. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Patrina. I'm the creator of Medical Affairs Strategy Hack, and I am so lucky to be joined again by Super MSL Catherine Sunderland. We have an amazing time management hack for you about why you should plan your ideal week. So let's just dive right in. Catherine, let's talk a little bit more about what you mentioned in the intro and what happens in these kind of low periods and why
Mhm.
it's so challenging for MSLs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll say one of the nice things that I mentioned is you do have extra time, right? So there's a lot of things that aren't face to face meetings with thought leaders that an MSL has to do. There's a lot of administrative tasks. There's just things that you'd want to do, like staying up with the literature, making sure you have time to read those papers that have been piling up on your desk. Use that, like use these times to do that, right? So there's a lot you can accomplish. You could do that. You could reevaluate your territory management plan, make sure that you're speaking with the right people. So it's a good time for planning so
Mhm.
that when things get busy again, you can execute them, like you said, aligned with strategy. But most importantly and critical is by doing this correctly and bumping up your outreach during this time, you'll actually be able to minimize these dry spells, as I call them. And so they don't become as extreme, because the more consistent you can keep your schedule, the more motivated you're going to be, the more productive you're going to be, and the less you're going to hit this fatigue where you have all of this stuff to do, but because you have so much time, you end
And you
up
don't
not
do
doing it.
anything.
You end
Yeah.
up procrastinating, which
Yeah.
I know is like the point that you just asked me. Like, that's the main point of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, the more free time you have, the less you're actually going to end up doing.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all felt that where we've had a big conference or maybe multiple conferences back to back. So, what Catherine just mentioned, and I think is a really good point, we all come to times in our work schedule or different seasons in the year when we just don't feel motivated, right? We know we have a lot to do, but we don't want to do it and we can't get ourselves to do it. And that's where this concept of the ideal week comes in. It's essentially a plan that you have in place for these times when you don't feel motivated. So you know you need to do your expense reports, put in your insights, do your follow up for your upcoming
Mhm.
meetings. What else? What am I forgetting here?
You said outreach or follow up emails, but I mean, you're constantly needing to meet new people in your territory too, and realigning your territory and who you're meeting with the strategic goals of the company. I mean, that's a never ending process.
Yeah. So, Catherine, how do you define, or how would you define the ideal week? Anything to add on what I just mentioned?
So if I had to describe the ideal work week in like one word, it would be proactive. So it's you proactively thinking about what you need to accomplish in a week from the end, and then bucketing out your days to make a proactive offensive plan for that.
I like,
You like
yes.
my hand
Yeah.
motion? YMCA? I don't know.
Yeah. That's really great. And if you guys want to learn more about this, Catherine and I wrote a little blog post with 3 simple steps for how you can do this. And we talk about this a lot in our different time management content. It's really about understanding what your main tasks are. So we just mentioned those, right? The insights, the KOL outreach, all of that stuff.
Your favorite
As
expense reporting, your
Oh,
favorite
yes, yeah.
task ever.
I was always the person when I was in the field, I was always that person getting in trouble for not doing my expense report. So,
Well, and that's a good point too, because every company has a different frequency that they want your expense reports. Some you can do them whenever, But some companies are like, you can only submit one once a month.
Mm,
So, but if you know that and you know the expectation, that's super easy to build in to your time blocking.
yeah. So figure out these tasks. You know you have to do them, and you want to be a high performing MSL. So it's really about getting to those things before it's bogging you down. And that's where this ideal week comes in. And Catherine and I give a little bit of a breakdown on main tasks as well as time you should be dedicating each week. Check that out on the Medical Affairs Value blog. Then bucket your time. And you can do this a ton of different ways. So Catherine and I were having a great conversation about this before. Catherine, what's your favorite way to structure your week or think about the hours you have to work during the week?
Yeah. So first I look at what calls I have on the books already, right? Those are not movable. So let's say one of my favorite hacks or pearls is that if you have afternoon calls, make sure your morning block, as we talked about, like usually about like 2 hours, what we call a block, make sure anything that's outreach, anything that's directly involved with communicating to either a cross-functional partner or a physician happens before those afternoon calls. That's my
So
biggest hack.
it's kind of the,
Mm.
what's that called? Eat the frog,
Eat the
right?
frog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do the hard thing first. So that's a really good technique. And something that Catherine and I talk about in the post as well is that these are just suggestions. Figure out
Yeah.
what works for you. So Catherine likes the eat the frog technique. I personally like to plan my activities around my peak productivity. So if I need to do
Mhm.
something that causes or makes me think a lot or where I have to do a lot of thinking, I don't want to do that in the afternoon. The afternoons are my low times. So you can think about it that way. Some people also do kind of days of week type things. And Catherine, I think you
Mhm.
do this, right? Like maybe update the CRM on Fridays or something like
Yep.
that.
Or like KOL outreach emails, initial ones are always like on a Tuesday or something. Yeah.
So the idea here is just figure out what works for you. And then the last step that we recommend is that you track your alignment to your ideal week. Are you following it or not? And it's not to beat yourself up if you didn't meet that, because we know as an MSL, you have crazy weeks and not crazy weeks. So it's more of just seeing where you are and then making adjustments. And
Yeah.
the last point I'll make is that, as we mentioned in the beginning, it's really about helping you make the low times less, or let me rephrase that. It's really about making the low times as productive as possible, because we know
Mhm.
that you're feeling tired and you probably don't want to do a lot of work. Catherine, how would you summarize this?
Yeah. So I'd say the best schedule for you is the one that you will stick with. It's likely going to look unique to yourself, but the goals around it are is to keep you consistently productive and allow you to stay motivated when you're very tired, when you are coming off a whirlwind of like a world tour in your territory, so that you're maximizing your time and but again, sticking to something that's easy to produce consistently.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's all about consistency and doing the activities that are going to move the needle for you. Catherine and I have a lot of great content on this on the Medical Affairs Value blog. We also have our MSL Impact Bundle that's up on our Etsy shop. If you guys haven't checked this out, it's really cool. If you try out this ideal week, let us know how it goes. We want to hear about it, and we want to know what little tips and tricks are working for you. So definitely share that. If you liked this content, please be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really helps it out. And Catherine, thank you so much. It's been so
Yeah,
fun working with you and hearing your perspective, and I'm sure everybody loves it.
I love talking to you about it too.
Yeah,
Nerding
thanks.
out.